The night before my graduation, the proudest day I had fought 4 long years to see, my mom walked into my room without knocking and held up a pair of electric clippers. The low buzz vibrated in the silent room, a sound that made the pit of my stomach turn to ice. I was sitting there, ironing the deep black gown that was supposed to be my armor, my proof that I was more than the shadow they raised me to be. For a single, stupid moment, I had let myself dream of walking across that stage, my name echoing in the hall, my parents finally seeing that they couldn't break me, but the look in her eyes shattered that dream instantly. It was a glint of pure, cruel joy, the kind she always got right before she was about to rip me apart. "Still pretending you're somebody," she sneered, her voice a low poison. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll make sure that tomorrow, no one forgets who you really are." Before I could even find my voice, my dad appeared in the doorway behind her. His phone already up, camera ready, a wide grin on his face like he was about to watch his favorite show. "Do it," he chuckled, the sound thick and ugly. "Let's see if baldness makes her future look any less pathetic." I was frozen to the chair, my hands gripping the armrest so tight my knuckles were white bone. A desperate plea escaped my lips. Barely a whisper. "Mom, please. Not tonight. This is my graduation. Please, don't do this." Her hand clamped down on my shoulder, her sharp nails digging into my skin like tiny daggers. "That's exactly why we're doing it tonight," she said, her voice chillingly calm. "Because you don't deserve to stand up there acting like you achieved something. You belong to us, and we decide how the world sees you." The buzzing grew into a roar in my ears as she flicked the switch. I didn't even have time to scream before the clippers bit into my hair. Hot, salty tears blurred my vision, and I watched in horror as long strands of my dark hair, the hair I had spent years growing, slid down the front of my gown and pooled on the floor around my feet. I begged them to stop, my voice breaking with sobs, but my pleas only made my father laugh harder. He snapped photo after photo, the flash of his camera searing bright spots into my tear-filled eyes. "Oh, this is gold," he snorted between laughs. "Wait until the family group chat sees this. Best family joke yet." With every pass of the clippers, I felt like a piece of my soul was being ripped away. My identity, my pride, my hope for a life. Free from their torment, it was all being stripped from me, leaving me raw and exposed. When the buzzing finally stopped, I just sat there, trembling, my scalp cold and bare. My hair lay scattered on the floor like a funeral for the person I had tried so hard to become. My mom used the clippers to tilt my chin up, forcing me to look at her. Her lips curled into a victorious smile. "Look at you," she spat, her eyes filled with contempt. "Bald, just like your future. Now when you walk across that stage, everyone will see the truth. Failure, plain as day." My dad crouched beside me, shoving his phone right in my face for one final, humiliating picture. The flash blinded me. "Perfect," he laughed, looking at the screen with satisfaction. "Tomorrow they might clap for your degree, but they'll be laughing at your head. You're finally good for something." Comic relief. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in my bed, my scalp raw and stinging, my pillow soaked with tears. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear their laughter, see the flash of the camera, and feel the cold air on my bare head. I looked like a prisoner, stripped of everything that made me feel human. But somewhere in the deep, dark hours of the morning, between the wrenching sobs, a new feeling began to flicker inside me. It was a dangerous, sharp thought. If tomorrow was meant to be their greatest joke, then I would make sure the final punchline was mine. I promised myself, lying there in the dark, that this would not end with me broken. The morning of graduation, I sat in front of my mirror. My fingers traced the unfamiliar, bare skin of my scalp, each touch a cold reminder of what they had stolen from me. My cap and gown lay on the bed, but the sight of them now felt like poison. What was supposed to be my armor was now just a costume for my humiliation. Through the door, I could hear their voices, loud and mocking. "She's probably in. They're trying to glue her hair back on," my dad taunted, his laughter booming. My mom's reply was even colder. "Let her. The world should see her for what she is, a bald, pitiful nothing. A piece of paper doesn't change what she was born as." I gripped the edge of my dresser, my nails digging into the wood. Their words were like acid, but I swallowed the rage. Showing them my anger was letting them win. My only plan was to survive the day. Walk the stage, get the diploma, and then get out of their lives forever. When we arrived at the ceremony, every head turned to stare at me. It was impossible to hide. The mortarboard cap wouldn't sit right on my bald head, it wobbled awkwardly. With every step. The whispers started immediately, like 1,000 tiny needles pricking my skin. Did she do that on purpose? What a joke. God, I would die before I walked out looking like that. My sister, the golden child, brushed past me in her own perfect gown. She leaned in close, her whisper full of venom. "Careful not to blind the audience when the lights hit your shiny head." Then she floated away, joining her friends, their laughter trailing behind her. I tried to focus on the stage, on the banner that read, "Congratulations, graduates," but the world was shrinking, closing in on me. My parents weren't content to sit quietly. They were performers, and my shame was their stage. I saw my dad lift his phone, zooming in on me, making sure he captured every agonizing moment. I heard my mom lean over to the family in the row behind them, her voice loud and proud. "We shaved it ourselves. Best laugh we've had in years." Their chuckles joined hers, a symphony of cruelty. My heart pounded against my ribs so hard I thought it might break. When they called my name, my legs felt like they were made of lead. I walked onto the stage, the cap tilting, the harsh stage lights making my scalp gleam. A wave of gasps rippled through the audience, quickly followed by laughter. Not quiet snickers, but loud, open laughter. I felt it wash over me, a tidal wave of humiliation, and then, cutting through the noise, my dad's voice boomed, loud enough for the microphone to pick it up. "Bald like her future." The audience roared. They didn't know this was a father destroying his daughter. They thought it was a joke. The dean tried to smile, to pretend nothing was wrong, but even he couldn't keep his eyes from my head as he handed me my diploma. My hands trembled as I took it. But before I could even take a step, my dad was there. He had jumped up from his seat and strode onto the stage. With a dramatic flair, he snatched the degree from my hands. "You think a piece of paper makes her someone," he sneered at the crowd, holding it high. Then, with a furious rip, he tore it straight down the middle. The sound echoed through the stunned silence. Before anyone could react, he grabbed the academic excellence trophy I had been awarded, lifted it over his head, and smashed it down on my skull. The world exploded in a flash of white-hot pain. I stumbled, grabbing the podium to keep from falling. I felt a warm, sticky liquid trickle down my temple and over my cheek. My cap was on the floor. My gown was stained with my own blood. Above the gasps of the crowd, one sound rang out, clear and triumphant: my mother's laughter. She was on her feet, clapping her hands. "Now she knows what she's worth," she shrieked. "Look at her. Bleeding and bald. That's the only stage she belongs on." Teachers and staff moved forward, but they were hesitant, unsure what to do. Students stared, their faces a mix of horror and morbid curiosity. And my sister, my perfect sister, just grinned from ear to ear, soaking in my utter collapse as if it were her own victory. I should have fainted. I should have shattered into a million pieces. But as I wiped the blood from my eyes with the sleeve of my ruined gown, I looked out at them all. I saw my parents, doubled over with laughter. I saw my sister, smirking like a queen who had just won her crown. And in that moment, I realized this would be the last time they ever laughed at me. Not because they would choose to stop, but because I was going to end it. I walked off that stage, ignoring the whispers and the pitying stares. I held the two shredded pieces of my diploma and the broken base of my trophy in my hands. They thought they had destroyed me in front of the whole world. They had no idea. They had just handed me the weapons I needed. They had shown everyone exactly who they were. And if they thought this was the end of my story, they were about to find out how deeply, deeply wrong they were. The blood on my gown, the sting on my scalp, the shame they had tried to bury me under, it all hardened into fuel. I left that hall not as their victim, but as the architect of their downfall. The blood dried on my graduation gown, a stiff, dark stain over my heart. But I didn't carry shame out of that hall, I carried a cold, sharp clarity. My parents and sister believed their cruelty was power. They thought their laughter was the end of the story. They didn't realize their public performance had given me everything I needed to write the final chapter myself. For weeks, I was a ghost in their house. I said nothing. I didn't fight back when they continued their taunts, when they left the pieces of my broken trophy outside my bedroom door like a sick decoration. Still bald, still pathetic, my mom would snicker as she walked by. My dad would raise his phone and pretend to take my picture, treating me like a circus freak. My sister would drape her pristine graduation gown over furniture in the living room, a constant, silent reminder of what I had lost. They were trying to get a reaction, to push me until I exploded. But I gave them nothing. Instead, I quietly collected everything. Every insult, every sneer, every time my father replayed the video of him smashing the trophy on my head. He kept it in a private folder on his phone and would watch it for a laugh. Never noticing me standing in the darkened hallway, my own phone silently recording him. I recorded him bragging to my mom, "Raising her this way is called good parenting." I captured every poisonous word, every drunken laugh, setting my traps one by one. Then came the night of my sister's big celebration. She had gotten a basic office job, but to my parents, it was as if she had been named CEO of the world. They rented a hall and invited everyone, neighbors, relatives, her old teachers. The banners read, "Pride of the family." I had to go. I wore a simple dress, leaving my head bare. My hair was starting to grow back in uneven patches, a visible map of my humiliation. When I walked in, the whispers started all over again. My dad saw me and nudged my mom. "She's really committed to the comedy role," he grinned. My mom just laughed. "She should thank us. We've given her a personality." Their words didn't hurt anymore. They were just evidence. During the speeches, my dad took the microphone. He couldn't resist. "You know," he began, a smug look on his face, "some kids make you proud, and some just make you laugh. I think we all know which one our little bald bird is." The room filled with laughter. My sister, in her gown, waved from her seat like a princess. I waited. When the laughter died down, I walked calmly to the stage and took the mic. My mom muttered, loud enough for the front rows to hear, "Oh, here comes the pity show." My dad pulled out his phone to record my breakdown. But I wasn't there to cry. I pressed a single button on my phone, connecting it to the hall speaker system. Suddenly, my father's voice, not from the stage but from the speakers, thundered through the room. "Bald like her future." A wave of shocked gasps rippled through the crowd. Before they could recover, the next clip played. It was my mother's shrill, triumphant laughter from graduation day. "Now she knows what she's worth. Bleeding and bald. That's all she'll ever be." Then came my sister's voice, dripping with venom. "Careful not to blind the audience when the lights hit your shiny head." The hall fell dead silent. The same people who had been laughing with my parents just moments before now stared at them with frozen smiles and horrified eyes. Every cruel word, every private humiliation, was now echoing for the world to hear. I wasn't finished. I played the last recording, my dad at home, laughing hysterically as he watched the video of himself assaulting me. His voice boomed through the speakers. "Best family joke yet." My mom's cackle layered over his, a sound of pure poison. When the last clip ended, the silence was deafening, heavier than any scream. I saw people physically recoil from my parents' table. Friends turned their backs. Relatives looked down at their plates in shame. My sister's perfect smile had shattered. My dad's hand, holding his phone, was trembling. "This isn't what it looks like," my mom stammered, but her voice was weak and hollow. I leaned into the microphone, my own voice calm and steady, cutting through the thick silence. "You wanted everyone to laugh at me," I said, looking directly at them. "Now they've all heard who you really are. Let's see if anyone is laughing with you anymore." Then I set the microphone down and walked off the stage. By the time I reached the exit, the chaos I had been waiting for began. It wasn't applause. It was the sound of my mother's panicked hisses, my father's desperate, angry shouts, and my sister's high-pitched voice trying desperately to explain away the ugliness everyone had just heard. The community they had worked so hard to impress was turning on them, slipping through their fingers right before their eyes. They didn't come home that night celebrated. They came home to shame. The neighbors stopped visiting. The relatives stopped calling. The invitations stopped coming. The family joke had become their permanent, public scar. I hadn't lifted a hand against them. I had simply held up a mirror and let their own cruelty destroy them. And that night, for the first time in years, as I lay in my bed, feeling the soft stubble on my scalp, I smiled. Their laughter was finally gone, and it was never, ever coming back.